Hey, what's up guys, Tactiholics here. What we're dealing with here is a Generation 4 Glock 19. Chambered 9mm, you have roughly a 3.8-inch barrel. I'm not entirely sure on that. 15-round magazines are the Glock 19 magazines. You can also run the extended full-size 17-round magazines from things like the Glock 17 and the Glock 34. But this is chambered in 9mm. We have the traditional Glock Trigger safety, traditional sights on here with kind of that field goal post on the back as opposed to 3 dots. These are, I believe, a plastic sight. You can replace them with night sights. I'd highly encourage that, as this is a premier choice for defensive pistol options. Getting a better set of sights on there is something I can tell you I would do right now. But what they changed for the Gen 4 is, if you look at the grip texture here, kind of has little prickly traction, if you will. I don't really know how else to say it. I think this is a big improvement over the previous generation Glocks. It kind of sticks into your hand a little bit better and gives you some more control of the gun. So that's definitely something that I like already. Looking at the other side of the gun here, we'll go ahead and lock the slide open, it's clear. If you look at the magazine release, they also made this a pretty sizable magazine release, so it's pretty easy to reach with your thumb or even your index finger for left-handed shooters. So certainly I think that's an improvement right there. And then the back strap, if you look here, you have a seam on the back of the gun. This particular Glock is sporting a Beaver tail extension piece up here on the top. I like the Beaver tail of the gun, but what Glock included with these Gen 4 models is a number of interchangeable back strap options for you to really custom configure that gun and get a bit better feel in your hand, or fit in your hand rather, than the previous generation Glocks. I think that that's something that could be very beneficial. We're going to try some different options on the back of the gun here and then see how it goes. So we're out here at the range with the Tac Strike Fat Boy full-size steel target system. We're going to crank some rounds into this thing yet again. The target's holding up really well. If you're in the market for a target that can take more punishment than your ears listening to a Madonna CD, go get over to Tac Strike, check them out, and that thing's going to hold up just fine. Let's load this thing up and burn it down. So real quick, let's take a look at some of the internal changes to the Gen 4 Glock 19. It field strips just like any other Glock. You just take the magazine out. We don't have one in there. Lock the slide to the rear. Now if you bring the camera in here, you can see the tab on the right side of the gun, which connects to the tab on the left side of the gun, just over the trigger right there. You need to pull down equally on both sides of that trigger, or both sides of that tab. Release the slide forward, press the trigger, and the frame comes off. And the slide comes off the frame just like anything else. It's very important when you're field stripping something like a Glock that you need to depress the trigger to take the slide off, that you make sure your chamber is clear, there's no magazine in the gun. I will show you real quick here another trick that works for me to field strip the Glock, because my hands are big enough, so if you have big meat hooks, you can get away with kind of pulling the slide back, just using the force of that hand, just like that. All you need is a little bit of separation of the chamber right here. Pull down on that tab, release the slide forward, press the trigger, and you accomplish the same task. So whichever one works for you, but that's how the slide comes off. Looking inside the slide here, the biggest change is this dual recoil spring. It is a captured spring on your guide rod, and it comes out just like all other Glock springs. But what this has is 2 different springs inside here. And these springs are designed to take up some more of that felt recoil and that energy from the bullet coming out of the Gen 4 Glocks. Think about these like the turbos on a car. The small one spools up real quickly. Well, the small spring on this guide rod takes that initial hit, that very fast initial hit, and then the bigger spring here starts to compress and take more of the bulk of the weight of that, if you could think about it that way. But I did hear when the Gen 4s were new that Glock was having some issues with the dual recoil spring. They may have even done a recall on that, but don't quote me on it. Since then, I believe now Glock has the issue sorted out with that, and there are no performance issues with this recoil spring design. The rest of the frame and the barrel just come apart just like a normal Glock. Really nothing super special here. You know, you got your barrel, you got your slide. So everything field strips and reassembles just fine. Drop that back in, and then to put the frame and slide back together, you mate the slide with the frame rails right here, rack the slide, and you're good to go. Enough talking about this thing. Let's go see if the dual recoil spring really makes a difference. I don't know if it will or not, but we got a bunch of magazines loaded up and some good company out here to help us shoot this thing into the Fat Boy target. So let's rock and roll. Breaking down the Glock trigger, it's very predictable. It is about a 5.5 pound trigger, so they say right out of the box. It feels a little bit heavier to me, and I don't really know why. It might just be between my ears, who knows. But once you make contact with the trigger, you automatically and intuitively depress that trigger safety. Very nice. You take up a predictable and smooth amount of slack, and it's a pretty short amount of slack right there, about a 1/2 inch, and you hit a very predictable and definitive wall or breaking point of that trigger. Apply a little bit of pressure, trigger breaks, really not a lot of over travel you can see in there. The reset, after the gun cycles itself, you come out, pretty short, pretty tactile, nice predictable clean break again. So, as you would expect from any other Glock, the trigger behaves really well. I don't know that it's quite up to the standards of my affinity for the Italian Stallion SIG 320. Certainly not bad. I know I'm gonna take some crap for that, but I had to put it in there. Let's keep pumping rounds through it and see how it goes. Really controllable. That's not quite full speed on the trigger, but it, working it fairly quickly, getting good hits. As you guys probably figured if you're familiar with the channel, I am a big fan of that extended beaver tail piece that they let you have on the back of the gun. I feel like that not only protects my hand from getting cut on the slide, which happens on other generations of the Glock, but it also really helps force the gun back into the target and help drive that gun, as you saw me talk about in our recoil control video. So it's looking good so far. I'm gonna pass off the smoke wagon to some of the other guys. All right, so we pushed it back to about the 50 or 60 yard mark here with the Glock 19. Gonna do a little bit of an accuracy test. Now, I'm a firm believer that most handguns' accuracy, or the accuracy of most handguns, the capabilities lies in the shooter and the trigger finger. But I do get a lot of questions when we're stepping back to a good, decent amount of distance here like this about sight alignment, sight picture, and what am I doing with the sights? How am I lining up the dots and all that other stuff? Well, I'm not lining up dots on this gun because there are no dots on the gun. Not a 3-dot setup. This is a field goal post rear sight, traditional for Glock sights, and a round circle on the front. The only time I personally advocate or use the dots of a 3-dot sight system is when they're night sights and the atmosphere is so low that I can't pick up the outline of the gun or the sight frame themselves. But because it's bright daylight out here, what I'm going to do is take the top of this rear sight and the top of the front sight and make that one continuous line across the top, so almost looking just over the top of the sights instead of focusing on the white paint, and cut the fat boy in half. Let's go ahead and load it up. We got some number of rounds in the magazine here. Push it out a little ways. We're going to see how this works. I'd say it does just fine. Again, I'm not a big fan of the stock sights on a Glock. I don't know, they feel kind of plasticky. I don't know if they're gonna break or get knocked around. That would be one of the first upgrades I would do, because this is a fantastic option for defensive carry striker fired pistols, but the sights seem a little bit subpar to me for defensive purposes. Just getting out, putting rounds through the gun, the bullets are gonna go right where you're pointing those sights. So line them up, smooth press on the trigger, and you're gonna cut down the fat boy. Okay guys, so talking about the interchangeability of the back straps on the Gen 4 Glocks. This is not a 19 specific thing, it applies to all the Gen 4s, but we have 4 different backstrap options. 3 of them are right here, 1 of them is mounted to the gun. You can see this one that's on the gun and this one here have a beaver tail incorporated with them. One of them is a medium, the medium is on here, and this is the large beaver tail backstrap, and then we have a medium and a large non-beaver tailed backstrap right here. They're very easy to take on and off the gun. So what you do is use the tool provided to you by Glock to remove the pin that essentially holds the bottom of your trigger group in through the back here. Go ahead and grab the back of the tang area here. That pops off. You can then either just reinsert the pin back into the gun if you don't want a back strap on there, or install any of these other numbers of back straps. So they give you a lot of flexibility. If you want to bring the camera in here real close, you can see at the bottom of this grip piece, that kind of makes a hook right inside there, those little tabs. So to reinstall it, you snap the thing up and into the back of the gun, take that pin, make sure the holes are lined up, and then it just gets pushed right inside there, flush it up, and that's all there is to it. So it's a few seconds worth of a job to go from small, which is essentially no grip, to medium, large, back, beaver tail, no beaver tail. So I really like it. I feel like although it only adjusts the direction of the Glock's grip in one direction as opposed to things like the 320 or the VP9 where you can adjust the side panels as well, I do feel like this not only custom tailors the Glock for a wider variety of people's hands, but it also helps protect your primary hand from getting that slide cut on top of there. I'm still getting a little bit of it if you zoom in right there, but it's definitely a step in the right direction over things like the Gen 3. It works, it shoots, and I think it's pretty fair to say that the Glock 19 is a good gun. You know, depending on the price, you're probably gonna be looking at right around 500 bucks. I don't really know, it depends on where you go. But if you're in the mood for, or in the market for a polymer framed striker fired gun, I think the Glock definitely speaks for itself. You know, I'm not a Glock fanboy, I'm not a SIG fanboy, I guess I kind of am. But everybody loves their thing and they think it's the best. I don't think Glock is the best, I just think it's one of the companies that does this job extremely, extremely well. So their reputation speaks for itself, their longevity, their performance in subpar or adverse conditions. Obviously today out here we weren't really punishing the gun, we're just making it stretch its legs a little bit. But nice shooting gun. I like the upgrades for the Gen 4, I like the grip texture on the Gen 4, I like the interchangeable back straps, I like the oversized mag release, the trigger feels pretty good, and the gun shoots really nice. So go ahead and leave a comment below with what you think of the Gen 4 Glocks, if you have any experience on them, or what you think as a comparable performer in the striker fired market. So hammer guys, double single action guys, stay out of this. But striker fire guys, comment down below with what you think about this gun. As always guys, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Share the videos around to help us get the word out. Leave a comment below of a gear request or gun request you want to see us smoke through. And another big shout out to our buddies and our sponsors over at TacStrike for giving us the Fat Boy. He probably isn't having quite as much fun as we are shooting at him, but we're certainly having a good time and he's holding up pretty well. So we'll catch you guys next time. We never quit. All right, we're pushing the Glock out to about 50-60 yard mark off this the Fat Boy. I'm gonna start that again, that was really bad. All right guys, so one of the changes that I pointed out before in the back strap of the Gen 4 is the interchangeability of the pieces. So here we have a total of 4, one is on the gun, here's the other 3, and what that provides you is a medium and a large back strap piece that you can replace on there, and a medium and large that's totally not even a thing. As always guys, we appreciate you watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe to us here, share this video around, help the viewers. That was not good, so I'm gonna do that over.